Good evening, fam. Welcome back to the show. It's your man, Tim Black. Man, I just saw something that made my blood boil. And if you're like me, it's gonna make your blood boil too. It's a nearly 10-minute long, 9-minute and 53-second long video by CNN put out about a Cuban who came to America undocumented back in the 60s, who recently died after being held in detention for like a week. After he was released, he had a heart attack, and they covered this thing like this was everything. I mean, we're talking 10 minutes of wall-to-wall gaslighting about the conditions of this prison in Florida. Folks, they pulled out all the stops. 10 minutes. Now, look, of course, the death is a tragedy. It's not that his death is not it's not that the man's death is not a tragedy. It's that so are our deaths. Our deaths are tragedies too. Hit subscribe on this content right now so you don't miss another video from this show to you, because ain't nobody keeping it 100 the way I'm keeping it 100. And let's get into this segment.
As President Trump tours the new detainment center that he's calling Alligator Alcatraz, we're learning more about one migrant recently held at a nearby South Florida facility. This is 75-year-old Isidro Perez. He's pictured here with his family, the guy with the beard in the background. He's a Cuban immigrant who came to the United States nearly 6 decades ago, likely allowed entry under parole programs for Cubans fleeing Fidel Castro's communist regime. He came to the United States back when he was 16 years old, reportedly working as a mechanic and fisherman. But in June, Perez was arrested by ICE. When his family says that he was sitting at a community center, you can see him here in this photo provided by a family friend, the white beard, his hands behind his back. ICE says that he was charged with inadmissibility pursuant to the Immigration and Nationality Act. He was sent about an hour east of the facility where President Trump toured today to Chrome Detention Center, which in recent weeks has been in the spotlight for moments like this one. Around the time of Perez's arrest, local media captured this demonstration. It's a group of detainees at Chrome standing in what you can see as an SOS formation, essentially asking for help. According to a medical intake completed the day after Perez's arrest, he had been diagnosed with multiple health problems. His former partner, Maria Alanis, told the Miami Herald that the 75-year-old complained of severe overcrowding at Chrome and of there not being enough beds and him having to sleep on the floor. About 2 weeks after entering Chrome, Perez had to be taken to a local hospital where ICE says that he was admitted with unstable angina, cardiac issues that could lead to a heart attack. ICE says that he was discharged last Wednesday, but then the next day he reported chest pains and suffered a medical emergency. Rescue crews were able to revive him and then transfer him to a local hospital for treatment, but a short time later, he was pronounced dead. So why was this 75-year-old man found inadmissible into the United States after being here for almost 60 years? It may be because some 40 years ago, in the early 1980s, Perez was convicted twice for possession of a controlled substance. Court records uncovered by the Miami Herald show that in one of those cases, he and another person were stopped on a boat and charged with possession and intent to distribute some 1,500 pounds of marijuana. At the same time, a judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison with 2 years probation. A family member told the Herald that the stint in prison actually gave Perez the opportunity to turn his life around, and he became an excellent person who helped his loved ones, especially the young ones, learn to swim and fish. In a letter notifying Congress that he'd passed, ICE says that, quote, it remains committed to ensuring that all those in its custody reside in safe, secure, and humane environments. Comprehensive medical care is provided from the moment that individuals arrive throughout the entirety of their stay. Here's the president's border czar, Tom Homan, at the White House when he was asked about Perez's case.
I'm unaware of that. I'm not aware of that. I mean, people die in ICE custody. People die in county jails. People die in state prisons. I mean, if you look at, when I was ICE director and we drilled down that, The question should be, how many lives does ICE save? Because when they go in detention, we find many with diseases and stuff that we deal with right away to prevent death. So I'm not aware of that specific case, but I'll say this. People can argue with me all they want, but the facts are the facts. I think that politicians in New Jersey found this out, that we have the highest detention standards in the industry.
The official cause of death for Isidro Perez is still being investigated. His family, though, has questions, including his stepdaughter, who told the Miami Herald, quote, "I don't understand what's really going on. We're all human. Why are they picking up 75-year-old people?"
The first thing I have to point out here is the length of the video. The framing of this entire segment. I cut it off because I didn't want to lose you as a viewer. But this video got over 375,000 views. Can you believe that? You got everything here. You got the granddaughter saying, what are they doing of detaining 75-year-old men? I'll have you know there are a lot of 75-year-old and older men in prison sitting right now who are American citizens. Happens all the time. That's the first thing. Number two, they use this footage of people spelling out SOS because they got to sleep on the floor and there's overcrowding and they're not getting medical attention the way they feel they should. Welcome to America. Third, they take this clip of Tom Homan saying, hey, people die in custody, making it seem like no one gives a damn, like this is a very bad reply about a person's death. It's particularly if you value that person's life, if you're a family member, a friend, or just a humanitarian. It made Homer sound horrible. But it's true. People do die in custody. We're going to cover that in this video. See, CNN is not just reporting this. They're framing this in a way to grab at your heartstrings in order to beat back the policies of deportation. It's so clear, it's so evident, even their coverage of this. When was the last time you seen a story on CNN about a black American dying a week after leaving or a few days after leaving jail? You never seen it. It's not that it never happens. It said it's not newsworthy. It won't rack up 375,000 views because it's pretty mundane, meaning this type of thing happens all the time. They're pushing a narrative that fits their agenda, and they're pushing our pain to the side. And that's why we got to call it out. First of all, America's prisons have problems, Johnson. Mass incarceration. We got 20% of the world's prison population, despite having only 5% of the global population. The U.S. houses more than 20% of the world's prison population since 1970, and incarceration population has increased by 500%. Since we started voting Democrat, 90 to 95%, the prison population increased 500%. And who you think it increased most with? We'll get to that. All right, so we got the global comparison, we got the growth rate. The current total is 2 million people incarcerated. Approximately 2 million Americans are currently in prisons and jails. Then we got the annual costs. $182 billion total system costs, including policing, courts, and family costs. Taxpayer burden continues to grow. Violence crisis. Male inmates, 25% of male inmates are assaulted. That's 1 out of 4 prisoners report physical assault during their sentence. I don't think people truly realize how bad our prisons are. We have healthcare problems, healthcare failures. 19% never see a doctor. This man did see doctors. Nearly 1 in 5 prisoners never see a healthcare provider while they're incarcerated. I'm just trying to make people understand that what happened with this man and what he faced is typical, for prison inmates across the country. I don't think what happened with him is much different than what happens in general. Now let's talk about the racial disparities, because I think this is important to my audience. Black boys, 1 in 3 will be incarcerated in their lifetime. 1 in 6 Latinos will be incarcerated in their lifetime. So it already shows we're 2 times more likely to be incarcerated than Latinos. And if we compare white kids, 1 in 17, 20 times more likely for black citizens to get life without parole for nonviolent crimes. 20 times. Then we got the mental health problems, right? We got 43% have mental health disorders, yet only 6% receive professional help at any given time. Recidivism, 68% are rearrested in 3 years. Our system fails at rehabilitation. 83% arrested within 9 years. Technical violations, 128,000 non-criminal violations. People in prison for probation, parole violations, not new crimes. And chronic conditions, they need ongoing care. Most prisons have chronic health conditions requiring continuous treatment. Tom Homan, the border czar guy, he said, hey man, we do a better job than our local prisons. Now I need to fact check that to make sure it's true, but I guess it makes sense. They have less people in those detention centers than the general, regular penitentiary might have, right? Newer facilities. We know that they're definitely more under the microscope than other facilities. I don't know where people have been, but this has been going on for quite some time. I know people that work within the prison systems. They talk about it. It's not a hidden information. And what the Democrats are doing, and it ticks me off, is they're looking at it now and they're only reporting on it because it's a benefit to them to report on this immigration issue and tie it to Trump and blame Trump for the death of this man, for instance. But all across this country, there are citizens that are dying in prisons. Let's talk about what they're not talking about. They're not talking about the numbers of black men and black women who, after release from prison, die from heart attacks. We know heart disease is the #1 killer for black Americans. You don't think they couldn't find stories of black Americans after being released from prison who have heart attacks? I'm just asking. Of course they could. But they wouldn't want to go do something like that. No one's going to watch that video. They're not going to get nearly 400,000 views on a video about black people having heart attacks. You think Chrome's bad, try Rikers, Cook County, or any other state pen. I'll show you bad, I'll show you overcrowded. We got black Americans packed into these facilities like sardines, dying from neglect, dying from violence in the prison. They don't even make it to the hospital. These institutions, they break your body and your spirit. Y'all, where's the CNN special on that? Where's a 10-minute deep dive into our stories? We are not the flavor of the year, month, day, moment. We're talking black Americans, 13% of the population, and we're 40% of the prison population. And they couldn't find a story. They couldn't find our story. Do you think they didn't find our story because it doesn't exist, or that they didn't even bother to look? I think we both agree. They did not bother to look. Now, I know my audience. You are fed up with the Democratic Party. You're tired of their theatrics, the show, the performance. You may or may not have voted for Trump, but there are certain policies that Trump has implemented that you favor, such as deportation. In fact, I got a feeling you're sitting here right now nodding your head. Nod your head, hit the like button. Nod your head, hit subscribe. Listen, you see how media picks and chooses stories in order to build a narrative, in order to discredit those policies. But where's the tribute to our brothers and sisters who are going through the same issues that they are reporting regarding immigrants or undocumented immigrants? That's all I'm asking. Equal treatment. They're complaining about these people not being treated equally, only for them to focus on them and unfairly or unequally focus on their issues. Make that make sense. You complain about inequality, yet you're instituting or you're performing inequality and favoritism in your own coverage of these groups. Under Trump, and only under Trump, does every incident or issue with ICE make the news. It make you think there's no ICE unless Trump's in office. But there was ICE the whole time. There was ICE under Biden and ICE under Obama. But no one covered it. CNN did not cover it to this extent. Under the Democratic presidents, you support deportation because you support fairness and accountability, not because you support heartlessness. There is a difference. Am I right? We are just tired of being overlooked and having the books cooked.
The issue of immigration. How is President Trump seen as doing on that?
Yeah, you know, if we just take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket. Compare now versus 8 years ago during Trump's first term. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way underwater at minus 21 points. But look at this. He's up over 20 points. Now, in the aggregate, he is in positive territory at plus 1 point on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have it a little bit higher than that. There is no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. No wonder the Times has written up the way that he is. Trump is begging for a fight on this because he knows what he's doing so far is working with the American electorate.
But all across this country, there are citizens that are dying in prisons. U.S. citizens that are not migrants, that are not undocumented. And it doesn't make the light of day because they don't really care about inmates. They don't care about people dying in prisons. If that's the case, they could do documentary series, updates, follow this closer. They don't. The only reason why the Democratic Party is talking about it is because they want to hurt Trump. If not, then this will be a regular recurring situation because believe it, our prisons, they are so dangerous that they deserve their own focus. That's if they actually cared, and they do not. So that's why I've been so ticked off when I see these Congress people, these Democratic Congress people, going to detention centers. They drive by 3 facilities on their way to an immigration detention center. Don't stop at the centers where U.S. citizens are being held to see what kind of conditions they're in, to see what's going on there. No, that's not important because they're only doing this for political grandstanding. They're doing it because this is how you make a name for yourself. They're doing it because this helps the Democratic Party. And that's another one of the reasons why I say screw them. That's why I say we need to get away from the Democratic Party because too many of us buy into this nonsense. I'm not saying the Republicans are great when it comes to prisons, but at least they're not cherry picking. You know what they don't do? They don't go and start caring whether it's a migrant. They don't care at all. That's my interpretation of it. So you want the person that's virtue signaling, pulling at your heartstrings, trying to make a political point, pretending to care, or you want to just be like, oh, these people don't care. We need to fight against them to make them care. or you want the people that pretend to care when they don't. I don't like deception. I don't like phonies. I don't like all this noise about a problem they know has been going on. Fix the problem, not just try to fight Trump. Orange man bad does not help anybody. Perfect. You made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you. Now, Google thinks this next video is going to be perfect for you. It's right up your alley. So click the next video, watch that with me, and let's keep this politics going. You're built for this.